Hello, my name is Sly Mata. I'm the Assistant Director for Diversity and Inclusion, and welcome to a workshop on diversity and inclusion. I'm a bit of a music snob, so the title of this workshop is titled With Every Mistake We Must Surely Be Learning. You're going to see why I named it that as we go through the workshop. You're also going to get a chance to see who I am, what I do here for the college, and we're going to talk about some concepts diversity, inclusion, equity, and a lot of different things. So enjoy. So, as I said before, my name is Sly Mata. I am the Assistant Director for Diversity and Inclusion. One of my many responsibilities here in the college is to create different strategies, different ideas, different programs related to diversity, inclusion, and equity. I do this more so, it's what I love to do. It is my passion to help advocate for others and create for others. But diversity and inclusion is a goal that is strongly supported here within the college. With the help of others, my teammates, peers, students, community members, anybody that walks through the doors of Copeland Hall, they can find an ally related to diversity and inclusion in me. I'm also a PhD candidate. I am studying for my doctorate. I've been here in Athens and at Ohio University since February 2019, so I haven't been here that long. My contact information is seen on the slide at mata@ohio.edu, as well as my phone number, 740-566-0124. You may want to write that down now, but there will be another slide towards the ending, which gives my contact information as well. So, why does the College of Business support diversity and inclusion? To be honest with you, and if you read the slide, you're going to see a various number, about four different reasons why we support diversity and inclusion. But the one thing that has to be true and why we support this is we're preparing you. You're not going to stay in Copeland or the College of Business all your life. You may decide to go get a job. You may decide to get an internship. If we are not talking about these concepts, if we are not getting you ready for a world outside of the university, we're failing you. And so this is why we support diversity and inclusion, because it prepares you for a whole nother world that you are striving to get towards after you receive your degree. Specifically, it enhances your social development. You are not going to be around people that look or sound like yourself for the rest of your life. You may work in a place that is completely new, completely different for you. How do you adjust? What tools do you need? What skills are great in welcoming new people from new cultures? This is what diversity and inclusion can do for you. But more than just getting ready for a world outside of the college or outside the university, more than just getting you ready for that internship, we are getting you ready for yourself. We are getting ready for you as you adjust, as you change, as you try new things. We are focusing on your personal development. Here within the college, we don't only focus on the academic achievement and academic development of our students, but also the interpersonal and personal development of our students as well. We see diversity and inclusion very critical to developing you into the leader or into the leadership that you desire to be one day. But even though I may create different diversity initiatives, none of this matters, none of this works without you. And this is where you come along. This is where you have an active part in making diversity strategies work. And so, what I ask for you to do is lean in. As we go through various diversity initiatives throughout the year, calls for programs, workshops, I ask you to attend. And not just attend, but I ask you to participate. Bring new ideas, bring your authentic self to these spaces. On this slide, you're going to see a variety of different ways that you can embrace diversity, whether that's being open to people's narrative, whether it's showing empathy to different challenges or cultural struggles that different students may go through, or whether it's showing compassion at different times of the year around cultural holidays, cultural benchmarks, or cultural traditions. These are only a few of the ways that you can embrace diversity, even as a student. Now, there may be different opportunities throughout the academic year where we will call for leadership within students. We'll call for students to speak on their authentic self or their identity. And those opportunities will come, and I hope that you take advantage of those as well. But in the words of my mentor, Mr. Irvin L. Coyne, I always start with the ending message at the beginning. So you know exactly where we're going to. And what I want to start off with by saying is that you matter. As I talk about diversity and inclusion, I am talking about you as a student and you as members of this community. And so when I say you matter, I don't mean that you matter solely as a student, but I mean you matter in all the aspects of your identity, all that you bring to the table, and all that you have brought to Athens or will bring to Athens once we're back into our physical building. But when I say that you matter, I also mean that your leadership matters, your identity, your experience, all of you. At various times, you may feel that people don't see you. At various times, you may feel that people see you solely as students, but that's not the case. You matter, and we love who you are as a person. We just ask that you bring that authentic self to the classroom because that's how you're going to make us better. But we can't talk about diversity and inclusion without talking about this past summer. So this slide is often titled, "What did you do what did you do this summer? What did you see? What did you experience?" Now, I'm going to show a couple pictures that have been our living reality for the last couple months. And so I give a little warning because it may generate a certain feeling within you. It may cause you to have a certain reaction, and that's okay. And when we get a chance, we'll talk about these as a community. But in the last couple of months, in the last couple of weeks, here in Athens, wherever you're at watching this, you may have seen some of the following. This past summer is what I call the summer of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. But let's be honest, we can add various different names to that list as we talk about social justice, as we talk about police brutality, as we talk about different things related to other diversity, inclusion, equity, social justice, marching, protests. These two names symbolize a lot of different feelings that many different people, based upon their cultural upbringing or their identity, may feel. Here during the summer in Athens, Ohio, but also in many parts of where you live at, you may have seen people take to the streets to voice their opinion. That you may have seen different communities, such as the police community and different communities of people, come together to say that we believe in equity and we believe in safety. You may have also found others, going to the street with signs saying Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, and so forth. Here within the College of Business, you are free to voice your opinion, your belief, your culture, as long as you do it in a safe manner and as long as you do it not at the expense of others. We believe in freedom of speech. We believe that people and students have that power to voice what they believe in, but we ask for that common respect for your peer, for your other community members when they want to voice themselves as well. And as I said before, we've seen different movements this past summer, whether it's the Black Lives Matter movement, immigration rights movements, Blue Lives Matter movements. We've seen a lot of different movements encourage people to use their voice. And that voice is so different for each and every person based upon their dimensions of diversity. And that's okay. Again, here in the College of Business, you will find your beliefs, your identity, your opinions, you will find that space to voice them. We just ask you again to do so in a safe manner, but also in a respectful manner. I don't think that people are going to believe in everything I say. I don't think that people are going to agree with everything that I say. But what I strive for and what I hope for is the equal opportunity to voice that opinion as anybody else. If ever at any point at given time you feel that your voice has been muffled, at any point in time you feel that you have an opinion and your opinion was put down in a way that was demeaning, come and find me and we will talk about it. And we will make sure that it is handled in a responsible manner. And lastly, this past summer, we've celebrated Pride Month. The unfortunate thing about diversity and inclusion is that sometimes we see it only in two different forms: race and gender, black and white, or male and female. And so I cannot talk about our summer in review without saying Happy Pride Month for those that celebrate it, or for those within the LGBTQ plus spectrum. See, here in the College of Business, we don't see diversity in just race or gender. We see diversity in all ways of life, including sexual orientation. And again, at any point, if you feel that your sexual orientation has been mocked, has been made fun of, or you have not been given the respect of anybody else, please let somebody know, including myself or any other faculty or staff, so it can be handled in a responsible way. This past summer was challenging for a lot of us related to diversity and inclusion solely because this is what we saw. We saw diversity, inclusion, and equity intersecting and combining at a focal point that sometimes was hard. But let's be honest, it's always been this way. If you belong to an other community, if your identity is a little different than others, these three concepts are not new to you. These three concepts are equally important to us here in the college. As we think about diversity, as we think about equity, as we think about inclusion, we do not weigh or care for one more than the other. We understand the place for all three, and we strive for all three to be everywhere inside of our college, within the classroom, online communities, and anywhere else that you, our student, may be. This past summer, this slide, says a lot of the words, a lot of the verbiage you may have heard. And because I need to look away from the camera to read the screen, you may have heard some of the following: Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, systematic racism, defund the police, peaceful protest, inclusion, denounce, marches, but he resisted, just follow the rules, a turning point was shot and killed, race, gender, equality, diversity, privilege. A lot of different terms have been said. And to be honest with you, you may not have understood a lot of the words that were being used. Today's workshop is going to go over some of the words, diversity and inclusion, to give you our definition within the college and how we define these concepts. So the first, what is diversity? Diversity is a word that you hear a lot of different places and used in a lot of different ways. Again, I have to stress, we in the college do not solely see diversity as race and gender. Unfortunately, diversity is often seen as just a black issue, a black and white issue. Oftentimes, people will look at me and say, "Of course, you're the diversity person. You're black, aren't you?" And I am black, but that's a whole nother topic. But we in the college see diversity as defined as the following: race, racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, geographic, academic, and professional backgrounds. We see diversity in all aspects of the identity of our students, of our faculty, of our staff, of our community members. We see it also with people with different opinions, backgrounds, religious beliefs, political beliefs, sexual orientations, heritage, and life experiences. Diversity is everything about us. So even though you may say, but Sly, I really don't see myself as that diverse, I would have to disagree with you because you are different from others, and that difference is your diversity of yourself. So in this workshop, you've heard me already mention dimensions of diversity. The dimensions of diversity is what you see on this slide right here: gender, race, ethnicity, age, physical mental ability, sexual orientation, language, veteran status, religious beliefs, marital status, parental status, education, income, occupation, geographic location. It is all of these and the ones that I'm missing. To be honest with you, I don't list all dimensions because if we were in the classroom, I would say raise your hand if you see something that's missing. Raise your hand if you see a dimension of yourself that I don't have listed here. The list of dimensions of identity, of diversity, will continue to grow as we as human beings continue to grow ourselves within our communities. If at any given point you do want to talk about these different dimensions and say, Sly, I see that you missed one, email me, call me. I am more than willing and very happy to have that conversation with you. When we talk about your authentic self related to diversity and inclusion, it's actually a hard conversation to have at times. It's a hard conversation because we ask ourselves questions that sometimes we don't like answering. This slide shows some of those questions. And I have these questions here not to make you feel a certain way, but I put these questions on here so we can, as a community, ask ourselves these questions and why our answers are the way that they are. For example, I will answer the first three. What I suggest, take a screenshot of this picture, of this slide, use your phone, take a picture, go through later and answer these questions. And I'm curious to see how you feel in answering these questions. The part of my identity that I am most aware of on a daily basis is my gender. I'm a man, and with my male identity comes certain privileges that allows me to travel across Athens, travel across the country and the world. It gives me certain privileges of safety and of security. The part of my identity that I feel others most often identify with me is Black. Here in Athens, there's a low Black people population, and when I leave my house, I feel that that is the one thing that most people, when they see me, that's what they identify with me as. I'm actually biracial. I'm actually half Black and half Mexican, but I identify as a Black man. The part of my identity that I feel gives me the most privilege is my gender. I have male privilege that gives me, again, as I said before, safety, security, and sometimes community when I am not looking for it or when I am looking for it. The hard part is often when different aspects of my identity intersect with each other, which we'll cover in a little bit. And when I said a little bit, I actually meant the next slide. The difficult part about those questions is looking at how different aspects of our identity intersect and collide with one another. Specifically, as you see on the next slide. When we talk about the intersectionality of our identities, we're looking at the three different dimensions, our A, our B, and our C dimensions. Our A dimensions are things that people can look at us and see. Things that people can look at us and try to guess. Age, culture, racial, ethnic identity, gender identity, language, physicality, mental well-being, sexual orientation, and social class. Those are the things people see and often react when they see us. Our B dimensions are educational background, geographic location, hobbies, recreational interests, military experience, relationship status, religion, spirituality, and work experience. Those are the things that are below the surface. Those are the things that are not seen, but have to be brought out of us as we communicate and talk to one another. And our C dimensions are historical moments, are things that have happened over the course of time, such as the marching and protests of the civil rights era, or the Holocaust, if you're of the Jewish faith in some sort. The hard part about this is oftentimes people react to A dimensions. They may not react the same way to B dimensions, and then they forget about C dimensions. So, for example, for A dimensions, when people see me, they may see a Black man. They may see brown skin. I'm a man. Well, he must be a Black man. Until they start to talk to me a little bit deeper, they look at my name. Within the B dimensions, they may not understand I'm a doctoral candidate on the verge of completing my PhD, or that I'm born and raised in Arizona and I've only been here in Ohio for 18 months. In the C dimension, historical moments, I'm a first generation student. I'm the great grandson of sharecroppers after the slavery era. And so that's the hard part. We often just react to what we see and we don't go beyond that. That's my challenge to you. Don't just react on what you see. Don't just form these preconceptions or misconceptions on only what you hear. Dig a little bit deeper. I promise you, if you dig a little bit deeper with both your community members, faculty, and staff, you're going to find some amazing, amazing people next to you. But what about inclusion? I spent the last 18 minutes now talking about diversity, but what about inclusion? As I began this workshop, I said diversity and inclusion. So what about inclusion? And in the next couple of slides, we are going to define what inclusion is and what it's not. So more importantly, I have to stress why inclusion is so important. Without inclusion, diversity is just segregation. Without inclusion, diversity is solely just saying you are different, but you're not a member of our community. You're different from me, but stay over there. Without inclusion, we're failing. Inclusion is solely defined as the feeling of feeling included in the community, within the college, within OU, within Athens. And let's be honest, sometimes inclusion doesn't happen everywhere, and I understand that. Doesn't mean I accept it, but I understand it. But if we are focusing on diversity without equally focusing on inclusion, we're failing you and our strategies will never work. So when I talk about inclusion, when I talk about that utopia, that dream world, that space that I strive to be at. On this slide, and I wish I could point on here, it's that low bottom right there. Because oftentimes what we feel is inclusion is not inclusion. What we feel inclusion being, sometimes what we're really facing is exclusion. Those that are different from others are not allowed in. Or, as I said before, diversity without inclusion is segregation. Those that are different from others have to bind together to find a community outside of the majority. Oftentimes, we are in a state of integration, and that is where others look and look for others that sound or look like themselves, and they stick together within a larger community. That's integration. That's not what I'm looking for either. I strive every day that I do this work, every day I come into the college for inclusion. I strive for the equity for those that are different from others that feel that they can navigate the space, walk around campus, have equal opportunity than anybody else, and do not solely have to be around those that look or sound like themselves. We're not there yet, to be honest with you. We're getting there. And I really believe that we will get there together. And this is why this is not only the work of myself or my peers or employee relations or academic coaches. It takes you to get us there. We may think it's working, but then you may tell us something otherwise. Again, I value your voice. And so please, at any times you feel that diversity is happening, but not inclusion, let us know, or if the vice versa is happening. If you feel that you've been brought into a community, into a circle, but you're not being respected for your differences that you bring, please let myself or anybody else know as well. And again, this next slide is just to show you my happy place, my utopia. My happy place is actually with my vinyl records, but that's a whole nother conversation. My happy place is right there in that middle. Inclusion, diversity, equity are all important to me. And if we can strive to get you to that middle ground, if we can strive to get you to that happy middle, that's where belonging happens. As we talk about inclusion, is that sense of belonging. It happens right there when you are acknowledged for your differences, when you are given equal opportunity, and when we make programs or make strategies to bring you into that community, a sense of belonging happens. Without that, we are one sided, and without that, none of this works. So, this is where you come in. This is where you come in. So, what is needed for this to happen? And two important concepts. There's a whole bunch of lists that I can make of what will make this happen, but two things that can make this happen: cultural competence and cultural awareness. The competency to be open and to be willing to learn of new cultures, new people, new traditions, new ideas, new ways of thought. That's what's needed from you. That's what I'm asking from you because that's what I ask of myself and my other coworkers as well. But also cultural awareness, the willingness just to become more aware of others, their identity, their challenges, their history, their struggles, their strength. I'm reading off the screen now. I just ask you to be more aware of people besides yourself or those that look or sound like yourself. Again, we may not agree with each other all the time, but at least we can have that equal respect at all given points of time so you can voice your opinion and tell me about the way that you see life. Specifically, when I say cultural competence, what does this look like for students? It means investing in this process of diversity and inclusion. It means actually leaning in and be willing to learn and engage on these concepts. It means holding each other accountable. If you're in a class, if you're in an online community, if you're at a football game, and you see something happening that really shouldn't be happening, you see somebody being made fun of or whatever it may be, hold each other accountable. This is a community, and I ask you to be an active bystander within your community. Hold staff and faculty accountable. We are not perfect at all. And this is where you come in to let us know where we may be overstepping, where we may be doing something wrong, and letting us know. I ask you to have the willingness to speak out and suggest a change. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it's very easy to see something that's going wrong and just let it go wrong and just pretend it's going to get better tomorrow, but it won't. We only get better when those have the courage to speak up. And again, I ask you for the willingness to do this work. It's hard work. It exhausts me a lot, which is why I would try to work out as much as I can. But I ask you to at least be willing to support us in this journey. So as I count down this to my last 5 slides, where do you come in? And you come in on the following points. Never forget the power of your voice. Your voice matters as related to diversity and inclusion, but everything else in this college, your voice matters. Don't forget your voice matters, even the smallest of words. And sometimes that's all we need is help. Or I need you to say, do you have a moment? We can we can work everything else out. But your voice is powerful and we love your voice and we want to hear it. Recognize that you can change communities and you're already changing our community by being here. Even though you're virtual, these last couple of weeks have been great and we cannot wait to see what happens in the future. We understand that you didn't ask for this responsibility, but it is a charge of each and every community member to make this community better. So with that, please take care of yourself and take care of others as we strive for these diversity and inclusion goals. So lastly, before I end, I'm going to reintroduce myself. This slide it symbolizes everything that I've talked about, how we're different from others, what has made me feel included, um, the A dimensions of our identity, the ones that you can see, the B dimensions, the ones you can't see. I introduced myself as, that clean cut picture of Sly Mata, my research interest, PhD candidate, what I do for the college. But I want to reintroduce myself. My full real name is Sylvester Gavan Mata Jr., but I've been Sly since 2009. I'm a Phoenix native, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm an alum of Arizona State University, Texas A&M University, and University of Houston. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I identify as a Black man, but as I said, I am half Black, half Mexican, and I am actually second generation American because my dad was first generation American as my family came from Mexico. I'm a formerly low income student, but I'm always first gen because no matter where I go, I'm always the first in my family to go somewhere. I'm a music snob. If you're in my LC class, if you're in sub at my office when we're back, we're going to talk about music. And if you listen to Billie Eilish or Drake, we're going to have problems. That's okay. I am a mama's boy. I am a brother. I'm an uncle. I'm a son. I'm a husband. I'm a scholar. These are all aspects of my identity that sometimes you may not see, but it is who I am in my totality. I say this slide not as a shock value, but I say this slide to say this is who we look at when we look at you. We don't see just a student. We don't see just a accounting major or finance major. We want to know who you are. We want all aspects of it, who you are, to come to the table. We don't value one versus the other. And as we shed our skin to really tell you who we are, we ask that you do that same for us. I know it may be challenging, but hopefully, as you find a home and community here in the College of Business, you find the courage to do so. So why? Why do the introduction the way I did? Why didn't like I could have just ended the introduction. And the next slide would say exactly why. As I said before, too often we only define diversity by what we see. And then our aspects of inclusion or making somebody feel part of a community is again based upon what we see. At sometimes you may feel invisible within the college. You may feel that nobody really sees who you are, your pain, your courage, your strength, your humility, who you are at any given point in time. If you ever feel that way, please email me, mata@ohio.edu, call me, find me on Microsoft Teams. We can talk. No student should ever feel invisible within this college. And I'll be honest with you, I have talked to students that have said it's happened, that they're suffering or they're going through something or they are, portion of their identity is hurting more than others and nobody sees that. Know that you always have a space in our office, in my office, to have that conversation. At any point, and this is why I have this slide up. The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison is one of my favorite books. At any given point that you feel that nobody sees who you are in your totality, you come and find me. I will make sure that you know that you are seen, you are valued, and you are treasured here within the college. So again, this slide may look familiar because it was at the beginning. And this is the next to last slide when I say that you matter. Again, as we talked about diversity, as we talked about inclusion, as we talked about the totality of self and who you are, this is what I mean by you matter. You matter. Your leadership, your identity, your experience, your music taste, your favorite food, your love for accounting, your love for foosball, whatever it may be, you matter and you're valued. All of you. So that's it. Normally this is when I'll ask questions, but we're doing this virtually, so there's no questions. But if you do have any comments, questions, please take a screenshot of this slide. It is my contact information. I am slymata at mata@ohio.edu. Copeland 210 is usually where I rest my head. Well, not rest my head, but it's where I work. And my phone number is 740-566-0124. You can find me on Microsoft Teams, usually Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You can find me at Ping within the weight room, usually in the evenings. I don't know what else to say other than welcome to the College of Business, welcome to Athens, welcome to Copeland, welcome to my community. And as a community member, whatever I can do to help and support you, I will. See you all later.